Hi everyone, my name is Bea and you are welcome to my channel. In today's episode, I am going to be showing you how I did this commission on VGen. My client asked me to make a half-body illustration of her OC, Genonia. She's a very gorgeous character, and to be honest, when I first saw her, she reminded me of bubblegum because of her locks and her overall aesthetic. Here's the post that my client requested, and so I'm forming a rough sketch with it. When doing a rough sketch, it's important that you don't zoom in too much because you have to make sure that the sketch looks good as a whole and not just by individual parts. Also, make sure to flip your canvas every once in a while so that the proportions stay correct and proportional even from both sides. Also, don't forget that it's okay to erase some parts of the drawing, especially if you think that they don't look good, because to be honest, sometimes starting over is better than staying with something that is not up to par. Here I am doing the second phase of the sketch, which is the clean sketch, I would say, on top of the base sketch that I just drew. I had a lot of fun drawing her hair because it was so voluminous, and I honestly enjoy drawing these kinds of hair where it's very bombshell-like, very voluminous, and very bouncy. It's the best thing ever. Of course, I'm not safe from doing the hands this time, so because the reference was quite blurry, I just did a picture of my own hand and used that as a reference instead, and it was very helpful. I suggest you guys doing this technique too. In this phase of the art, I erase a lot of stuff and I use the transform tool to reposition some of the elements. So a little bit about this commission is that this is my very first commission on VGen. Because of that, I am very grateful to my client that trusted me because they're my very first customer. Here is the final sketch / line art. Also, my apologies for my voice if it sounds quite monotonous. It's because I'm kind of sleepy right now while recording. Here comes my favorite part, which is coloring. When I'm doing the coloring part, I usually start with establishing the background and completing the flat colors so that I know which colors. I made different backgrounds and color combinations to see which of them my client likes the most. And of course, here's my favorite part ever, adding the blush. It's such a small step, but it literally makes a huge difference because it makes the art look more polished and it really gives the character life because when you're blushing, it's the blood flowing on your cheeks and stuff, and it makes your skin look vibrant and very beautiful. I also put a tiny amount of blush on the fingers because I just think it looks really cute. Another technique I usually do after putting on the first layer of blush is picking a more saturated color and then put it on top on where you first put the blush on. It gives that extra oomph and extra vibrance in your art that I really like. Now we move on to coloring the lips. I love doing this because it feels like I'm putting makeup on the characters, which is so fun because in real life I also do my makeup, and sometimes I enjoy the process more than the actual results because of how therapeutic it can get. Of course, we also have to put on some eyeshadow for her. Here I am roughly marking where the shadows will go on her face using the same color for her eyeshadow. And here's me coloring the line art for it to blend well with the flat colors of the drawing. I was supposed to use the multiply layer to block out the shadows, but I figured that manually blocking out the colors in the same layer is much more effective for this kind of drawing, so that it really blends in with the background without the shadows overpowering the drawing that much. So as you can see here, I am putting the reflective colors and the reflective light. Sorry if the speed paint can get a bit messy. And here's the part where I render. For my rendering style, I usually paint over the line art as much as I can and really tidy up the details, and of course I like to put the most emphasis on the eyes because the eyes are the window to the soul. I'm sorry if the speed paint is so incomprehensible at this point because it's of the zooms and stuff. I zoom a lot when I render, so my apologies. Please do let me know if you would like a drawing process in real time instead of this very messy speed paint kind of thing. Now we are rendering the hair. For the shadows, I used a more saturated color of the hair. For example, for the light blue hair, I moved the slider to make it a bit darker and a bit more saturated than the base color. And I also paint over the liner to make it look smoother and cleaner, and I also improved the shapes of the waves and the curls to make it more defined. Of course, this is also one of my favorite parts. It's the part where I put textures over my art. I usually use some of the brush packs that Clip Studio Paint offers in their assets. And of course, the drawing cannot be finished without her iconic long pink bubblegum nails. It really just ties the look all together. And here's the final product. I sent it to my client and she loved it a lot and even rated me 5 stars. Thank you everyone for drawing with me, and I hope to see you guys in the next episode.